Hi, Gareth. So good to see you.
You too, Steph. It's been a while.
Yeah. Well, mostly because you've been traveling everywhere around the world, sharing the gospel of skills and tasks.
Yeah, it's been good fun. It's been really
Yeah.
good fun. Learned a lot as well.
Awesome. Well, can't wait to hear that. And of course, you're famous to me. But for those of you who don't know you, can you just sort of tell us what your expertise or what the work is that you're passionate about?
Yeah, no problem. So, hi everyone. I'm Gareth. I'm the CEO of a boutique consultancy called TQ Solutions. We operate in the workforce and talent segment and covering kind of strategy, op model, technology, and brand. And my area of expertise is the whole kind of workforce optimization space. And that can cover human versus digital, looking at what your AI strategy is in terms of your workforce, work analysis and task intelligence. Obviously, Steph and co know very, very well indeed. Increasingly work redesign, and then the linkage to skills and talent strategy is kind of the area that I've been deeply immersed in the last couple of years. And it's probably my nerdy, geeky area of expertise.
You spend a lot of time with HR leadership teams, don't you? And talking about their tech stacks, how they can get more out of that, how they can deliver better to the business, things like that.
Absolutely. Well, technology is a key component. It's we do though for us technology is just the enablement. The critical thing for us is what problems we're trying to solve, what are the solutions to those problems, where does technology fit in, where do people and humans fit in. And I think that we often over index on technology and we often under index on the human change, especially in some of this area that we're going to talk about today. So we really consider that when we're looking at solutions to problems.
Brilliant. And I think that's where our philosophies really come together is how do we design better for humans? So, yeah, we love working with you. Tell us, you've just been to Stockholm. Had a lot of FOMO seeing those posts and hearing about it. Can you tell us what was that conference about and what were you sort of presenting on there?
Yeah, sure. So, firstly, the conference is organized by the Future Talent Council. They're a member-based global organization that has a number of events around the world for members in North America or Middle East, etc. They're just about to probably put on their agenda the first APAC event, which they're targeting probably Singapore. But every year they have a summit where they invite members in from all around the world in Stockholm, which is their kind of headquarters. And it's probably one of my favorite conferences. And it's one I try and not miss. And I think I'll just explain why, because I think it gives you some context as to why it's high value. It's a blend of policy makers, academic institutions, future of work researchers, and also practitioners. So it kind of brings together a really interesting ecosystem when we're thinking about work and workforce, the impacts of AI. It brings together lots of different voices and people that are going to have a big impact on work and workforce in the years to come. And it isn't just an HR conference. So for me, it brings deep thinkers, some high intellect, some really credible research into view, but has the right people in the room talking about the right topics.
Yeah, so
It's a wonderful event.
for all of us who couldn't be there in Stockholm, can you tell us what did you learn? What are the things that we should know?
Yeah, look, I think I had a lot of core takeaways from the both the conference, but also the discussion with people around the conference, which is just as useful. I think globally, we're all grappling with the same challenge, which is the AI adoption trigger that we're all working through at the moment. And there's different paces and there's different priorities across different businesses and regions, but that is a major, obviously, focus point. No surprise there. There are very, very mixed views as to likely impact, particularly on broader workforce. There are still some people who are very much of the opinion that we're just going to be better workers and better humans and AI is going to augment us. But there are increasingly more people being vocal about the displacement of humans and jobs with agentic AI in particular. And I think this year we had more discussion on the role and likely impact of agentic, and that was really helpful to start to see some of the discussion there. So I think that came through. And I think one of the really key themes was there is a feeling that the job displacement rate is going to be higher than the job replacement rate. Everyone's clearly of the view that lots of new jobs are going to be created, and in balance, there'll be more new jobs than old jobs lost. But one of the key learnings I had is there's going to be a messy period where those two rates are not in sync. And that's going to cause problems for societies, economies, businesses, and clearly individuals. And there is a real genuine concern about that period of time. So I think for me, that was a really key learning for me. And the other one for me that was really interesting, there was a few academic researchers who have been studying the impacts of generative AI on human behavior and the importance of really educating people on how to best use generative to not shortcut, because there is a real fear that it's being used to shortcut work, which is producing lower quality work and also dumbing down the humans. And that really bridges the gap into the academic world. How does academia need to change for this new world of work, which is another key talk track, that our current education system is no longer fit for purpose for the AI era. So they were the kind of really three big headlines. I mean, there was lots of stuff, clearly, great case studies and lots of facts and figures that were shared. But those three things were really, education needs to change. Job displacement is going to be higher than job replacement. And the impact of agentic. There were really three critical things that came through.
So what does that mean for your world of work? Will that change how you advise people or what you think the work is that needs to be done within your clients?
It's actually, Steph, validated and reinforced our current viewpoint and our strategy. So TQ as a business, we're about to kind of reposition our brand and work, and we're going to be focused on what we're calling workforce optimization. And everything we do currently kind of sits under that new banner. And one of the key things that's shifted or has shifted in my view this last 12 months, again reinforced by the discussions at Stockholm, is that HR has put the cart before the horse, and that we've been obsessively focused on skills, and skills are really important and they're going to be inevitable. But actually, we need to shift focus and start focusing on work, because the AI adoption that we're all facing into means we've got to understand work at a very granular level, at a task level, so that we can start to think about where AI has a role. Should AI be coming in to do those tasks or that task or those clusters of tasks? We have to have that intelligence to determine our technology and digital strategy that will result in a redesign of work, which will inform our skills and talent strategy. They're all connected, they're all important, but the first thing we have to do in this AI world, particularly with the agentic AI, is understand work at a very granular level, which is where we're doubling down as a business and loving the partnership with you guys.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Gareth. So yeah, it's really it's always seemed crazy to me that organisations don't have visibility into what the people are actually doing beyond a job description, which became redundant, I think, years ago with the way that we're working. So maybe it's a return to really truly understanding what are the jobs to be done within our organisation and who's there to do them. Back to Stockholm, I saw you were in a debate of sorts with Dart Lindsley, another one of my future of work heroes, and I would have loved to have been there and seen it. What was that about? What were you debating and who won the debate?
Yes, okay. So Dart and he's also a legend in my mind as well. Dart is the reason I went and explored skills very deeply 2 years ago. He is a skeptic. He remains a skeptic to the value of skills. And I think more importantly, he philosophically doesn't agree with that data led approach about humans. He regards skills as the ability for companies to codify and tag humans and manipulate them at scale. Is kind of some of the language he would use. And we've always had a bit of sparring on this whole topic. Dart wants to focus more on the redesign of work with a very human-centric lens and actually wants work experience design to be the primary focus of organizations. And he doesn't necessarily believe in the value of skills. So with us, we both independently presented at Stockholm over the last couple of years, and we thought it'd be fun to pitch a debate where Dart takes the it's all about experience, it's all about the humans, and I take the it's all about the data, it's all about the skills, it's all about the work analysis, it's all about the more logical, rational side of business. And very kindly brought me on his podcast late last year. And during that podcast, we kind of debated the arguments as well. But we started to bridge a reconciliation between Dart's world and my world. And so what we teed up for Stockholm was positioning our various points of view and our opposing points of view very clearly and quite adversarially. It was good fun. We created great theatre. I've never actually done a debate before in my life, so it was really good fun. And we got Sandra Lachlan from EPAM Systems to moderate, and she was awesome. But one of the things we decided we wanted to do was how do we bridge these two worlds? And the bridge is work redesign. And I actually referenced Beamable and some of the work we've done with you because I know there's a strong alignment in your philosophy with Dart. And if we can redesign work once we have done our work analysis and our AI considerations and all that sort of good stuff with a very human-centric lens, we can bridge into Dart's world. And Dart's methodologies and his focus areas become really relevant. And so the debate was good theatre and very different to all the other presentations. But I think the key messages were both of these things are super important. And actually, to get the best out of your workforce and your organization, do the stuff that I'm talking about, and then bring Dart's philosophy and Dart's methodology into the redesign of work, and you will have a way better outcome. So that's kind of what the debate was about. Now, we did a very crude who's changed their minds during the course of the debate. And Dart will tell you that more hands went up on his side than mine. So he will say that he won the debate. But I had a secret weapon. And that secret weapon was Sandra from EPAM. And the next day, we presented the EPAM case study together. And I think I won all those votes back.
Okay. So you're conceding defeat is what I'm hearing.
I'm
No.
conceding he may have won our debate, but in the long run, I think I won the broader discussion.
Yeah, well, not to be too cheesy, but I think the real winner is in actually trying to figure out some of these very, very hard and complex issues. Yeah. It's and it can seem really daunting, I think, to people who, HR practitioners and leaders, business leaders, to really think about, what does all of that mean? So skills, tasks, workforce redesign. I think it's been a bit out of reach unless you have a McKinsey or BCG on speed dial to come in and, for many organizations, a big sort of reorg, transformation, rethinking, if you're a very large company, that kind of thing. And so I think it'd be really helpful just to talk about what are the sort of brass tacks of it? Like, what does it actually mean for, if I'm sitting here thinking, okay, that sounds great in Stockholm and great in reality, but this is what I've just got to execute day to day. I'm being pushed for productivity, for efficiency. I've got engagement surveys that have come back saying engagement isn't as high as what we need it to be in some critical workforces. Is there a place to start? What are the sort of practicalities that you can see and how this actually comes to bear?
So there's a couple of things on this. I think it's a couple of observations from what we're seeing in our consulting work. It seems that in January this year, a lot of CEOs have basically charged various functional heads with go work out your AI strategy. So there's lots of people running around scrambling, trying to think through this stuff at a functional level. Now that's good, but it's suboptimal. I think my advice to companies would be first, think about your organizational strategy and then align it to some functional strategy. I think there's a lot of people running off doing their own thing, which I think is going to be suboptimal. So I think aligning the execs on a broader AI strategy is going to be really important first. Then I think it's about identifying, well, where do we want to start? And clients that we've been working with recently have been looking at areas where they are pretty confident AI is going to have a significant role to play in that part of the business. It could be operations areas, or it could be customer service areas, i.e. lots of repeatable transactional type work that takes place. Obvious places to start. And we're seeing customers wanting to run some proof of concepts, some pilots. What does this work analysis thing look like? What's it mean? How is it going to be useful? And so some of the initial projects we've had have been looking at, it could be population sizes of up to 100 people, and assessing those population sizes, running them through the methodology, showing them the output and the benefit of that output. And then they're obviously going, okay, we've done this. We're now going to do this next group and this next group and this next group. And I think that more pragmatic approach is going to, more and more companies are going to want to do that. But I think in the long term, it allows companies to build capability in this methodology, test and learn, show the value of doing this type of work. And over time, I suspect this will become normal practice for businesses as technology and AI is disrupting the work that's being done. So proof of concepts in areas where it's pretty obvious that AI is going to have an impact or technology is going to have an impact is where we would suggest people start. And there's some prime candidates in organizations when you can start to think of it that way. Don't try and boil the ocean. You don't need to do the whole organization at once. And I think that's a great way to start.
Yeah. But you're saying there is a way, sort of step, 1, 2, 3, there is a methodology that organizations can take and test in one area, roll out in other areas, and start to build that muscle.
Absolutely. We've been very public, and I have particularly, that we feel that workforce analysis is going to become one of the most critical capabilities or muscle that an organization has in an AI era. And it needs to sit within, needs to sit within HR. So I think the HR function must build this capability, and it doesn't have it at the moment, which is why, in many of our projects, we're almost thinking our role is conduct the first few, train the trainer, for want of a better term, and eventually transition that capability within a business, because the business has to have this capability in the future, or else they're going to get left woefully behind.
And do you think it's going to be more of an HR business partner supporting, say, a general manager with their strategy who'll do this type of thing? Or do you think it might be talent acquisition who has typically been asked, who do we hire next? They'll be actually saying, actually, we're going to help you with your workforce composition, workforce optimization, or is it something different?
So it's a great question, actually, Steph. I was asked, I presented to a group of people in Brisbane on Monday, and I think I put a bit of fear into the room, particularly those who are in talent acquisition roles, because they're the function that's likely to get most disrupted within an HR people team. 60% of their work is currently administrative. So my advice to people in TA is you're going to need to do something fundamentally different. And actually their skill set is very aligned to work analysis, because they already understand jobs, PDs, the makeup and constructs, skill requirements. They're very well placed to actually conduct and execute work analysis projects. I don't think they'll be the ones persuading or influencing the execs to do the work. That's going to need to be a senior HR BP or the head of people or whoever. But I think they can execute the work and they can reskill, retrain to do that work. I think they would be very, very, very well placed to start considering that as a future career option.
Very exciting. Very exciting for them.
Really exciting.
Yeah.
But the other thing I'd just probably suggest is that this is not an HR problem, and actually HR needs to influence and agitate the need to do this work, but ultimately the leaders need to recognize the need and urgency to do this work. And I think at the moment the penny's not dropped, but I think the leader, right from the CEO, in fact there's a great McKinsey article that's released this week, which basically said, hey, it's time for CEOs to stop messing around with generative pilots and to really start the hard work of organizational transformation through agentic, it has to be driven by the leadership of the business and likely facilitated through the HR and people function.
Yeah, I think it's really critical that that the people function does play a role because, to your point earlier, going right back to that sort of scary stuff around what happens to our humans, you do need to think about things like even if AI can replace our what one client referred to me, feeder roles, our junior roles, our grads, should it? And not just for the good of the world and employment, but for building that capability for their future leaders and for having the best talent, which obviously it is going to be our people who, in my view, who differentiate and win. Because if, AI isn't a competitive advantage, right? So it might be from a cost perspective immediately, but in the long term, competitors will be able to automate the same stuff. So it will be the quality of the humans and their capabilities and their ability to think and be powered up and their engagement and retention of those people that I think will really drive performance, drive organizational performance. So having that people lens on, well, what is our actual people strategy? What's our workforce strategy for our humans, and how that feeds into where AI and technology plays a role, I think will be critical.
Yeah, look, I think I mean, even with some of the projects we've conducted recently, where we've leveraged Beamable, um, we don't want the CFO being in charge of this stuff because the only thing they're going to care about is the efficiency and productivity. Now, we want to drive efficiency and we will create capacity within human teams, no doubt. And even with the projects we've done, we've identified significant capacity opportunities. But unless we're talking to the business about effectiveness and experience, all we're going to see is companies shrink their FTE and those savings go to the bottom line. But I think it's imperative we have multiple voices in the room when we've done this analysis. We are presenting the efficiency opportunities, but we're also going, hey, we can be more effective in the work we do with recommendations XYZ. Importantly, we can drive experience of customer, experience of leader, experience of worker up by reallocating work over here. So I think we've got to have, I mean, we're calling it our 3 E's lens. We have to have that efficiency, effectiveness, experience lens when we've got the output from work analysis. And we definitely don't want the CFO making the calls. So I think that's a really, I mean, we've obviously just started doing this work now. We're presenting those opportunities using those 3 E's for organizations to consider. And yes, there's going to be some job displacement, not denying that, but we can divert some of those FTE displacements elsewhere in the organization for significant benefit.
Well, that's a beautiful segue to close the loop on our conversation. I think right back to your and Dart's bridge and coming together on work analysis leading to better human work experiences, and hopefully we'll see that loop come together in the strategies of organisations as they start to embark on this journey as well. So
Yeah, I actually
thanks,
think it's a bit of
thanks
an
for sharing all
imperative.
of that.
We have got to make sure that conversation is heard and considered and is brought to bear. I think there's a duty of care for us to do that. Yeah, it's critical. And I think aligning to your corporate brand and what you stand for is really important when you're considering this work, because that has to drive some of those decision making that you actually take place.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for sharing it here, Gareth. So people can watch if they're into this area, if they're considering it as well. So thanks so much for the chat. And I'm sure we'll be having more interesting conversations very soon.
Well, thanks for the invite to come along. It's great to see you and enjoy the conversation.
Thanks. Thanks, Gareth. Bye.